Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1246.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about, is the IPO market back? Because yesterday was a huge offering, the likes of which we haven't seen in quite a while in the IPO market. It was the largest public offering since 2021. The UK-based chip designer ARM, made its NASDAQ debut, trading at about $56 a share or 10% above its initial price offering. That brings the company's market cap to nearly $60 billion. And the shares continue to climb higher in afternoon trading, popping about 18.3% higher. It's been nearly a 2-year drought in the IPO market. An AI company, ARM, started trading in New York Thursday afternoon with 95.5 million shares under the ticker ARM. And as I said, it's the largest IPO offering this year and the biggest since electric truck maker Rivian in 2021. SoftBank acquired ARM for $32 billion in 2016 and will hold on to about 90% of the company's shares. While you may not have heard of ARM, you do use the company's products daily, like Apple, Samsung, NVIDIA, and Google use ARM's designs and instructions to create their chips. The firm is essential in the production of smartphones, laptops, video games, televisions, and GPS units. Now, many companies, including Apple, Google, NVIDIA, AMD, Samsung, and Taiwan Semiconductor, have indicated interest in acting as a cornerstone investor in the offering, according to a filing last week. This is really important for the IPO market because deal making is at its lowest level in over a decade, as recessionary fears and high interest rates have really shrunk valuations. And Wall Street is really looking at ARM's listing as a bellwether balloon for future tech companies waiting to go public, of which there are over 200 companies that should have IPO'd last year, but the market was so darn bad in the bear market, it wasn't possible. Even Goldman Sachs is reporting that its investment banking revenue has declined by 20% in the second quarter of 2023, and overall their profit in the quarter fell by 58% from a year ago to $1.2 billion. Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon said activity levels in many areas of investment banking hover near decade-long lows, and clients largely maintained a risk-off posture over the course of the quarter. But as I said, there's over 200 companies that are waiting to IPO. They just don't want to be the first ones out. And a successful debut by ARM could be the big IPO that clears the pipeline for the rest of those companies. David Sekera, chief U.S. market strategist at Morningstar Research Services, said, "This is a big deal. The big takeaway here for investors, even in the public markets, is if this IPO is successful, that opens up the floodgates for a wave of new IPOs. That would provide a positive market sentiment for the overall stock market." This year has actually been the worst for IPO since 2009, according to an analysis by EquityZen, which is a marketplace for private company stock. So far this year, 73 IPOs in the U.S., including ARM, have raised $14.8 billion, according to Renaissance Capital, which tracks public offerings. That's a fraction of the listings during 2021, when 397 companies raised $142 billion. Kyle Stanford, an analyst at PitchBook, said, "A lot of companies are exploring the market right now. The demand is there. ARM is a particularly interesting test of the public market because it provides an essential technology that is geopolitically and strategically coveted, which also means it faces challenges." ARM's chip designs are primarily used in smartphones, but the company has pitched itself as able to ride the wave of artificial intelligence sweeping Silicon Valley. Many AI companies need the most advanced computer chips to do the sophisticated calculations required to develop the tech, which I have talked about on previous podcasts and also talked about Cerebras, the chipmaker private company available on Link2 that I'm a fan of, and also Sambanova, which does government AI contracts. Check out my podcast where I talked about both of those AI companies. Now, interestingly, NVIDIA tried to buy ARM in 2020 for $40 billion, but that plan collapsed 18 months later after regulators opposed the acquisition. Now, a couple more IPOs have been filed, but there's a slew that are waiting to IPO, and they're all watching ARM, and should this turn out to be successful, which it looks like it was as of yesterday's debut, we may just have a deluge of IPOs coming, maybe later this year, but definitely in the first quarter of next year. Matt Maley, a strategist at Miller Tabak, said this could be a lot more important than people realize. If ARM does well, that certainly is going to help open things up for a market that's been dormant for over a year now. It's also going to tell us something about this whole thing with AI. There's still plenty of hype surrounding it, but not the big euphoria. And I would agree with that. Anybody who's saying that AI is in a bubble that's ready to burst is not very familiar with how bubbles work. To have a bubble, you have to have everybody in the bubble, and AI is still very early in its phase. It's not reached the euphoric bubble phase where everybody is invested in it and touting that it will continue on forever in terms of being a very successful investment. That's how bubbles work. But this really isn't about AI. This is really about the IPO market. And this successful debut is showing us that there's appetite for more shares to come behind this particular IPO of ARM. I think the market has reopened and there will be more offerings coming this quarter, but especially the first quarter of next year, where it's going to get crazy in the IPO market, mainly because we're about to start a rip-roaring bull market in a lot of risk-on assets by late October of this year into the first half of next year. And that's the perfect environment for IPOs. So those 200 companies that are on the back burner and waiting to IPO, many of them are going to want to strike while the iron is hot and provide the liquidity for their shareholders that they've been wanting to provide. So is the IPO market back? My answer is yes. If you haven't yet subscribed to Be Wealthy and Smart, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as soon as new podcasts are available so you never miss one of them. And all of my podcasts are available on my website at lindapjones.com/podcasts. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.